Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. And I just want to introduce myself. I'm Natalie, and I just wanted to talk to you about something that you're probably going through or know someone that might be dealing with it. Maybe you've never heard of it at all. First off, I want to welcome you to my little hidden cabin in the woods. Deep up in the mountains, I usually bring some of my little figures with me to do some photography work with them. I did a beautiful little set with the Man with No Name, the Clint Eastwood, and David from Lost Boys, and of course, Jack Torrance. Have you ever had the feeling that you know you're here, but it doesn't feel like it? The first time I had this experience, I was 14 years old, and I had smoked some marijuana, and I had smoked some before that, and it wasn't a problem. Back then, in the mid 70s, you had all types of different strains of marijuana. You had Colombian Red and Acapulco Gold and Panama Red and Thai Stick and Michoacan, the whole thing, all kinds of different types of marijuana back then. And I was 14, and what's funny is the first time, it was me and a few friends. They were building the Playboy Club in the city that we were living in at the time. My father's business had worked there, terrazzo business. And so they were building the Playboy Club, so there were no security or anything. So we snuck in, and for the first time, I tried marijuana at the Playboy Club, even though it was still being built. But really didn't feel anything. I remember laughing a lot. Um, After that, there might have been a couple of more times I tried it, and no problem at all. Um, and one time I had smoked it. Um, I just didn't feel right. Felt extremely high and short of breath. I started feeling paranoid. You know how that goes. So I go home. I'll never forget. I'll go home. I go home and I go into my room, and I'm just feeling like horrible, like like I was like gonna die or something. And I remember to try to calm down. There was a record on the record player turntable. It happened to be Master of Reality, which was Black Sabbath's album. So I put that on, and that lasted about 10 seconds, and that freaked me out. And so I turned it off. And I remember going into my sister's room, well, standing at the doorway, actually, of my sister's room. And no one was in there. The lights were out. It was dark. And I just started speaking into the room. And I caught myself. I'm like, what am I doing? And that kind of scared me. So I go outside, and my brothers and friends are in the front, and they're talking about cars. And when they start talking about cars, it was this weird echo. I mean, their voices were echoing. I knew something was wrong, and I turn around and go inside, and my mother is asking me, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And I said, "I don't know." But when I said, "I don't know," it was like this real deep, "I don't know." And it was real slow. But right before that, when I went inside, I turned around, went inside, and she asked, "What's wrong?" Right around that time, I felt this, you could call it a rush, I guess, but everything turned like extremely cloudy, and then the whole thing changed. I mean, I felt even higher at that point. So my mom knew something was wrong, and she's like, "We're taken to the emergency room." So they get me in the car and they're taking me to the emergency room, and we get there, and the doctor's asking if I ate anything wrong, or, you know, did you take anything, son? I'm like, no. I wasn't going to tell him I was smoking pot, that's for sure. I mean, it was a different world back then. So, and that was my first encounter with depersonalization, derealization. But first off, let me step back a second. To me, and the research that I've done, DPDR, depersonalization, derealization, is a BS word. It's a BS word. And I'll tell you why. Because, of course, we all know that basically it's a panic attack, it's an extreme anxiety attack. And sometimes I think that it's not good to give it a label when really it's just an anxiety or panic attack. And I'll tell you why in a few minutes. So later on, of course, I quit smoking pot, and it lasted, that feeling. I felt like I was high for months and months and months. And I guess maybe maybe into September of that year, I started coming out of it. My mother had passed away in July. So I would say September of that year, maybe even before, August. And this happened in March of 75. And so I would say maybe August, I started kind of coming out of it a little. And so, of course, I still didn't smoke, and used to go to a lot of concerts, and still didn't partake in anything. I remember going to Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare with Edgar Winter opening up. And I remember somebody had this big joint that they rolled with a Cheech and Chong paper from the album Big Bamboo. And they had a thing called hash oil, and they dipped it in that. Well, I didn't partake in it. Some of my friends did. As a matter of fact, when all this happened and my friends and brothers would smoke pot, I'd hang my head out the window. I didn't want nothing to do with it. So everything was fine. You know, I started kind of coming out of it. And then maybe 77, I kind of took a chance and tried to smoke again. And I did. And it was fine. Everything was good. And it was November of 78, November 18th. I go out, and I had just smoked, and I go out and I get the newspaper. And when I open the newspaper up, on the front page, there were nothing but people laying down. It was a very historical event that happened in South America, in a country called Guyana, with a infamous reverend. You could look it up. And I started reading the article, and it just freaked me out, because I was thinking to myself, how could a man of God do something like this to his own congregation? It was quite horrifying. I was 18 at the time, and then it happened again. I started feeling that rush. I started getting paranoid, freaked out, and then it happened again. And that lasted a while. I would say it lasted a little over a year before I started feeling a little better, more like myself. So, taking us back into maybe 1980, 81, still didn't mess with anything at all. In 1982, I had gotten a job at a nightclub as a mixologist. I had actually had the job before as a mixologist in other nightclubs that I had opened before that. So it was an extremely cool place. It was a 50s themed nightclub, and they had a buffet all you could eat. It was great. It was packed every night. Fun times. 1982. And they were open until I think October of 84, and they closed. Actually, I when they closed, I went to Schaumburg, Illinois, because there was one there. It was a chain. It was called Studebakers. And I went to the one up there and worked for a while and came back home. And they opened the nightclub as a club called Confetti's. And everyone would dress up as different people and do little skits. And the cocktail waitresses, the bartenders, the doorman, everyone would dress up as different characters, and they'd take like a 5-10 minute segment to where they would get on stage and start doing different skits. And me and a friend that I worked with, our skit was from the Up in Smoke scene where Cheech and Chong are on stage and they're singing, and he's got the Mickey Mouse ears and the pink tutu, and it was fun. So from that time until August of 2016, I had smoked a number of times and it didn't have any effect. And I was working a part of a tour for Frankie Valli. And one night I was working his tours on the 14th of August. I felt fine. The 17th of August was Alice Cooper at the theater that I was working at for actually both shows. So I want to say it was August 15th. I had smoked again, or August 16th. I had smoked again, and it happened again. Now, this time I was kind of mad at myself for smoking again and it happening again because it's not fun. It's not a fun feeling. Um, it's actually horrible. You feel like you're here, but it doesn't feel like it. And this last time that it happened in 2016, it was quite intense, very intense. I actually thought I died and I thought I was a ghost. And what's kind of funny is my girlfriend at the time, there was the front door, and we had moved a love seat by the front door. And we usually go out the side door. So there was a love seat that was blocking the front door. And I, I look at it and I started thinking about that scene in The Sixth Sense where I guess the Bruce Willis's character, I forget, he was maybe a study or something, but there was a door under the stairs that he used to go in this room, and but there was some kind of nightstand or something blocking the door. And I don't know, I thought about that scene. But anyway, so it was quite intense. And for a while, I started doing research, and because when it first happened to me when I was 14, I didn't know what was going on with me. I thought I was the only one. It was a horrible thing, especially at that age. And again at 18. I even went and talked to someone about it because I was having such anxiety attacks that I'm like, well, maybe I need to go see someone. And I did, and they said it was anxiety, and they gave me some medicine to take. Can't even remember what it was. I took it a few times, and but what got me through it those first two times was my own support group. Not even knowing that it was a support group, but it was my friends staying busy, working out, the job. That is the key. No matter what anyone says, that is the key. The other key is not having someone in your life that's going to stress you out because it's going to make it worse and it's going to prolong it. Whoever's watching this, whoever is experiencing this, you were definitely, without a doubt, going to get through it. I got through it the first time. I got through it the second time. I got through it the third time. It took a little longer. And the weed that I smoked was from a dispensary, okay, in Colorado. So it wasn't something that was laced. None of it was laced. It just so happens that marijuana seems to cause this thing. So now we're in 2025, and I'll say, if there's no stress involved, I'll say I'm about 90%. There could be a few things that are better. I noticed one weird thing about the third time that this happened. Uh, I used to have these kind of strange dreams, not premonitions, but I would have these just weird dreams that would end up being coincidences. It's kind of hard to explain, but also, since then, this third time that it happened, the nightmares have been really, really rough. But you know what? We're still here, and I'm doing a lot better. And I know everyone else who's experienced this knows what I'm saying. It's scary, And this is another thing about the third time that it happened. I couldn't look at the moon. I couldn't look at the sky. I don't know why. I have no idea, but it freaked me out. But here's the thing. I worked in the film industry. I worked in the music industry. I did tours. I opened nightclubs. I fed off of that energy thousands and thousands of people in various settings. I find it very hard to be around people now. But I think it's not just me. I know that a lot of people are experiencing that. So I wouldn't say that the DPDR brought that on. I don't know or can't explain why that phenomenon is happening, but I do know that a lot of people are having issues that they can't be around people. I don't know. It's the time of the season, it seems. But with God's grace, I'm coming out of it. Thank the good Lord, because only Him. And the first two times, same thing. It was by His grace, by His power that I got through it. And I know it for a fact. And I just, I'm making this video. I don't know if it's going to help anyone. It might not. But all I want to say is, it's going to be fine. I promise. Look, if I could go through, and look, I've watched other videos. What, see, when my sister passed away, and it was probably late, early 2019, 2018, I think. And my sister passed away. And I was still feeling the DPDR because it happened in 2016. And it was still pretty strong. And something just told me, and I kind of regret it. I got to be honest. I kind of regret it. Something told me to get on YouTube and type in, what does it mean when you feel like you're in a dream? Because I was getting so annoyed with feeling this way. I'm like, maybe there's something, maybe someone else has experienced it and made a video. So I get on YouTube and I type that in, and all this stuff comes up about DPDR, depersonalization. And I'm watching the videos, and of course, the majority of the videos, it happened from marijuana use. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Now, at the time that I started doing this research, I noticed that I was starting to feel a little better. It kind of, it, now this is just me, okay? And probably other people can relate. But knowing that there was a name for it freaked me out even more, if that makes sense. I'm like, oh, what? DPDR? What the hell? Oh, shit. And it made me feel worse. I'm like, I kind of regret it. I should have just left it alone and let it naturally go away. But by knowing what it was, doing the research, looking this up, looking that up, I think that's what prolonged it the most. And, but I've learned my lesson from that. That's for sure. And one bit of advice: if you're going through this, I'm gonna tell you, you know, no video, no one, but time is the only thing that's gonna work in your favor. And it's good. Sometimes it don't take that long. The first time it happened to me, it was maybe a few months. Second time, maybe a little longer. Third time, it was longer only because I kept myself in that rut by dwelling on, oh, GPDR, oh no, what is that? So, I guess you're your own worst enemy in that respect. And but now that I know, you know, that it's only a symptom of anxiety, it's only something that happened because of a panic attack. I read the whole thing about the fight or flight, la la la. Yeah, I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. As a matter of fact, it does. But all I want to say is, just hang in there. It's going to be good. My advice: stay away from the ganja. Just stay away from the pot. Now, I since then, had taken CBD oil, for calmness and stuff like that. I don't even do that anymore. Most of the friends and some of my family still smoke it. I don't care. I don't have nothing against it. It's just I know what it did to me. What's funny? Now, the third time it happened, I was really disappointed in myself that I did it. So look, I went to go see someone. Actually, I went and saw three different people. Neither one of them knew what it was. Now, from my understanding, it's one of the top psychological things that happen to people. Okay, and none of them knew what it was. When I told them what was going on and how I was feeling, and then that I found a video, and it's caused by marijuana, and they call it depersonalization, derealization. The psychiatrists and psychologists, they're looking at me, and then they're typing it in, looking it up. They didn't even know anything about it, and these are pros, supposed to be pros. So a little bit of advice, I'm in just speaking for me, they didn't do nothing for me. And, like one time I was talking to this guy, it was a group thing. And, people had, their different issues that they were dealing with. And when they came to me, I started explaining what happened with me with the marijuana. And after I was finished, the psychologist or whatever he is, he goes, "Oh, well, thank you for sharing. Now, what about you, Brenda? Can we hear your story?" I'm like, "Look at this." I'm like, "What am I even here for? Thanks for sharing. How about some solutions? Can you come up with some solutions? You don't know what, maybe any suggestions on what I could do to get back to earth, because kind of makes you feel a little alienated. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, um, I'm doing a lot better, and I just, like I said, hang in there. It's gonna be all right. You're good. Um, I think staying busy, having a good relationship with someone, uh, a good support group, friends and things like that, and just don't dwell on it like I did. That's all I kept doing. I'm like, man, it's not going to, and if you keep doing this, what is it going to change? As the clock keeps spinning, you're still in the same situation. You're basically spinning your wheels. So that's my story. And I just, want to tell everyone that, you could do it. Um, might take a little time, might take a little effort, might take some uh, little things that you could do, like I said, working out, hobbies, man, hobbies are great. I'm a collector of vintage memorabilia, whether it's vintage toys. I worked in many different areas of the entertainment industry, and I have, tons of like autographed memorabilia, sports memorabilia, NFL, Major League Baseball, basketball, movie star stuff, all kind of things like that. And it was fun. It's still fun. And but you know, I'm retired now, and I just I'm glad because it got to a point after the 2020, um, that isolation, that isolation helped me tremendously. And I know a lot of people had problems, being alienated and being alone and shut in and all. I get it. If I wouldn't have been going through the DP thing at the time, I don't know how I would have approached it. I would have probably approached it the same way. I would have enjoyed it, you know, because at the time, you know, I just felt that I needed that break, from the masses. I needed it. I needed it bad. And I lost a lot of people during that time in history. And yeah, it's a shame. And a lot of good people, a lot of good people. And I know a lot has changed for everyone. And, but I just want to say, stay strong, hang in there. You're going to be good. I promise you. I promise you, you're going to be good. I know sometimes, you know, I, before I would say it's so scary. God, what's going on with me? Now I'm like, oh, this pesky thing. I'm actually using the word pesky now, which is okay. That means that things are good. And I'm gonna tell you, I must have had a strong dose of the DPDR because, man, it was creepy this time. I mean, to be freaked out about looking at the moon, what's that all about, But that's it. That's my story. And like I said, good luck to everyone. God bless you. And my heart is with you, and everyone's hearts is with you. And if you have somebody that you depend on and someone you could talk to, talk to them, tell them what's going on, and they'll listen. They love you, and it's going to be good. And for now, I would like to say Saranara. And this was my team for the Madden. I called them the New York Godfathers. Oh, wow.